Some deaths are heartbreaking, others are heroic, but then there are those that leave you shaking your head in disbelief. These are the tragically stupid deaths. So absurd, so avoidable, and yet painfully real. Whether it was a reckless dare, a moment of overconfidence, or just plain bad luck mixed with bad decisions, these stories remind us that reality can be stranger and darker than fiction. In this list, we explore 5 of the most tragically stupid deaths of all time. It was the evening of August 25th, 2010, in Bakersfield, California. Dr. Jacqueline Kodarak, 49 years old, was a respected internal medicine physician. Known throughout the community not just for her medical brilliance but for her heart, she treated hundreds of patients a week, sometimes for free. But that night, something broke inside her. She had reportedly been drinking, maybe numbing the weight of everything she carried. Her career, her emotions, and especially her stormy relationship with 58-year-old businessman William Moody. Their history was messy, off and on. Passionate, toxic, intense. That evening, for reasons no one fully understands, she decided to go to his home, but Moody wasn't there. He had slipped out the back door before she arrived, avoiding another blow-up, another night of emotional exhaustion. Dr. Kodarak didn't know he was gone, and something inside her refused to just walk away. First, she tried to force her way in. She found a shovel and tried to break down the back door. When that didn't work, something in her snapped, logic twisted by alcohol, desperation, and maybe heartbreak. She grabbed a ladder, climbed onto the roof, and pulled off the chimney cap. Then, unbelievably, she tried to enter the house through the chimney, feet first. It sounds impossible. It should have been impossible. But she went in anyway. What she didn't know was that just 2 feet above the fireplace, the chimney narrowed, too tight for a grown woman to pass through. She got stuck, wedged in a vertical tunnel of brick and soot, completely alone, trapped in a space so tight, her chest couldn't even expand. She couldn't scream, couldn't move. No one heard her. No one knew. The next morning, when she didn't show up to work, her assistant and even William Moody began to worry. Her car was parked outside his home, her purse, phone, money, all untouched. But there was no sign of her. By Thursday afternoon, she was officially reported missing. And still, no one checked the chimney. Friday night came, and something strange started to happen. A neighbor, Terry Terza, noticed a foul smell in the air. Another neighbor thought they had heard a faint voice crying out for help days earlier, but brushed it off as kids playing a prank. No one could imagine the truth. Who would? By Saturday, the smell had become unbearable. Moody had already flown to Europe, and someone else had been asked to take care of the house. When the house sitter and her son arrived, they followed the odor to the fireplace. They shined a flashlight up the flue and froze. Something was there. Something wasn't right. Wedged above the hearth was the lifeless body of Dr. Jacqueline Kodarak. She had been inside the chimney for 3 days. Decomposition had begun. Fluids had started to seep through the fireplace bricks. The horror was real. Firefighters were called. It took 5 grueling hours to dismantle the chimney from the outside. The space was tight. Her body was fragile. Recovery was slow, painful, and deeply disturbing for everyone involved. The autopsy confirmed what no one wanted to believe. She had died of mechanical asphyxiation. She'd been trapped so tightly her lungs couldn't inflate. There were no signs of foul play, no defensive wounds, just a deeply distraught woman caught in a moment of chaos, trying to enter a home that wouldn't let her in. Moody, when reached later, called it a terrible mistake, an act of judgment he couldn't explain. He didn't speak much about their relationship. Maybe it hurt too much. Maybe he didn't want the world to know what they were really like behind closed doors. But he did say this: her death was devastating. And it was, not just for him, but for her patients, for her community, for everyone who had once relied on her healing touch. She had recently been voted a local favorite, honored for her tireless dedication. She was the doctor, and now she was gone. It was August 10th, 2021, in the quiet village of Fulsawangi within Maharashtra's Yavatmal district. A group of young men gathered in an open field. In the center stood something strange, something that didn't belong. A homemade helicopter. It looked like something out of a science fiction film. A spindly, metal-bodied machine with whirring blades and exposed wiring. It hadn't come from a factory or lab. It had come from the hands of a dreamer. Inside the cockpit sat 24-year-old Sheikh Ismail Sheikh Ibrahim, known as Muna to his friends. He wasn't a pilot or engineer. He had dropped out after 8th grade and worked with his older brother in a small welding shop. Most days were spent repairing cupboards and coolers. But behind those sparks was a mind lit with ambition. He wanted to build a real working helicopter, all on his own. Inspired by Rancho from Three Idiots, Ismail believed he didn't need a degree to change the world. He had something else: obsession. For 2 years, he scavenged scrap metal and salvaged car parts, welding day and night. YouTube became his classroom. He learned about mechanics and design from the screen of a phone. He named the machine the Munya helicopter, and he poured his soul into every bolt and blade. His goal wasn't fame, it was pride. He planned to reveal the helicopter on August 15th, India's Independence Day, a symbol of hope, a tribute to his village. One day he dreamed of building low-cost helicopters for flood relief efforts, but first, it had to fly. That night, under a cloudless sky, a few friends stood watching with phones out and hearts racing. The machine had lifted before, just 5 feet, but this was supposed to be the real test. Ismail climbed into the seat, but something was wrong. He wasn't wearing his helmet or headphones, gear he never skipped before. No one knows why. Maybe nerves, maybe excitement. Maybe he thought this was the moment that would change his life. The engine started. The main rotor spun, then the tail. The helicopter shook to life. For a second, it looked like he was about to make the impossible happen. Then, disaster. With a crack, the tail rotor snapped. It slammed into the main rotor, sending metal shards flying. One large piece smashed through the windshield and struck Ismail in the head. He collapsed. His friends dropped their phones. They rushed to him, pulled him from the wreck, and raced him to a hospital in Buldana, but it was already too late. The village was stunned. Their rancho was gone. A boy with no degree, no resources, just belief. He had built a machine from scrap, and for a moment it had almost worked. Videos of the crash spread across India. People watched the final seconds of a dream in flight. Police launched an investigation. They questioned his brother and the 3 friends who witnessed it. The wreck was seized for analysis. Experts said the tail rotor gave out under pressure. The structure was too weak. It triggered a chain reaction. They warned that while tutorials can guide small projects, aircraft need precision, expert oversight, things Ismail never had. It was August 23, 2017, in Thornaby in northeast England. 22-year-old Jordan Eastston had just celebrated his birthday 5 days earlier. He was full of life, sharp-witted, funny. He worked as a joiner, built things with his hands, and was loved by many. That evening, Jordan was out with friends. They returned to a friend's house later that night, a calm, familiar space. Among the group were not just young men, but a mother and a child. It wasn't a rowdy night. It wasn't the kind of environment where you'd expect something dangerous to unfold. But then Jordan said something that pulled everyone's attention. He claimed he was wearing a stab-proof vest. Some laughed it off, unsure whether he was serious. And then, before anyone could truly process what was happening, he picked up a kitchen knife and drove it into his own chest. It happened in a flash. No hesitation, just this terrifying act that no one expected. He believed the jacket would protect him, but it didn't. The blade pierced straight through. People rushed to his side, hands shaking, voices rising. Emergency services were called. He was rushed to the University Hospital of North Tees, but it was too late. The knife had gone deep. There was only one wound, but it was fatal. The investigation began almost immediately. Police needed to understand what had really happened in that house. There was no sign of a fight. Detective Superintendent Ted Butcher led the inquiry. He confirmed what many close to Jordan already felt in their gut. This wasn't a cry for help. This wasn't a man looking to die. It was a terrible, reckless decision made in a moment of complete confidence in something that wasn't real. The coroner, Karen Welsh, reviewed the evidence and issued her ruling, death by misadventure. A legal term, but a heartbreaking one. It meant Jordan had taken a risk without intending to get hurt. She called it the foolishness of youth. Jordan's mother, Allison Price, sat through that hearing. She couldn't understand it. Her son, acting like that, in front of a mother and her child? It didn't add up. It would make more sense if he was showing off in front of the lads, she said softly, fighting through tears. But in that setting, it's just not like him. Her confusion wasn't just grief. It was echoed by everyone who knew him. He was doing better. He had plans, and he had people. He had no reason to go. Friends posted tribute after tribute online. One wrote, "R.I.P. to one of the craziest lads I've met. You were one of a kind." Another said, "Totally heartbroken. Deep down, you had a heart of gold." A childhood friend added, "Everyone on the estate loved him. He made everyone laugh." To this day, no one knows exactly what kind of jacket Jordan was wearing. Authorities never confirmed it. Stab-resistant gear does exist, typically made from Kevlar or similar materials, and is often sold to professionals. Some companies even advertise casual-looking protective wear, but there's no proof his jacket had any of that. It was May 28, 2025 in Budva, Montenegro. a coastal town on the brink of summer. The beaches were coming alive with sunbathers, music, and the steady whir of tourist boats. Among the crowd was 19-year-old Tihana Rodonjic, a student and part-time model from Novi Sad, Serbia. She was on vacation with her aunt and cousin, sharing her adventures with friends and followers online. It was meant to be a carefree escape. That afternoon, a local tour company offered her a free parasailing ride in exchange for promotional footage. The setup was simple. Smile for the camera as she soared above the Adriatic in a bikini, capturing the perfect summer moment. She seemed relaxed, laughing, following instructions, waving from the boat as she was strapped into her harness. The parachute lifted, the boat accelerated, and she rose into the sky. About 50 meters up, nearly 165 feet. For a moment, she floated in silence, framed by sun and sea. Then something shifted. Footage from a mounted camera showed it clearly. Her body stiffened. Her eyes darted. She tugged at her straps, adjusted her vest. The smile vanished. Her breathing grew uneven. Then, a shout, desperate, piercing, "Put me down! Put me down!" Those on shore froze. She twisted in her harness, pulling at the waist strap, legs shifting. Then, suddenly, she flipped upside down and slipped through the braces. She fell, 50 meters straight into the sea. A scream, then silence. Boats rushed to the spot. They found her quickly, but it was already too late. The fall had taken everything. News spread fast. In Montenegro, in Serbia, across social media. The video confirmed it all. She had panicked and tried to free herself. But why? Miro Kurzic, the parasailing company owner, said she had shown no fear beforehand. It may have been a moment of uncontrollable fear, he offered. Investigators reviewed the footage, interviewed witnesses, and inspected the gear. Some believed she had a panic attack. Others thought she misunderstood the harness. Her family dismissed any idea of intentional harm. She had just graduated. She was joyful, full of energy, with plans for her future. Her parents, Brana and Goran, released a statement. "We will never come to terms with this. You will stay in our hearts forever." Friends remembered her as fearless, kind, always smiling. Her aunt posted an emotional tribute, recalling the laughter they'd shared hours before the tragedy. As the video circulated, people questioned the safety standards. Why wasn't she tethered to a professional, like in skydiving? Why was she alone with only basic training? Some pointed to the pressures of social media, how the need to appear brave, carefree, adventurous could override caution. Tihana had no experience with parasailing. From that height, maybe she panicked. Maybe she thought unbuckling would fix something. But it didn't. Authorities in Kotor opened a formal investigation. They combed through every strap, every clip. The final report was still pending, but no report could change what happened. It was just after midnight on June 1st, 2025, in East Hartford, Connecticut. The kind of early Sunday morning when the streets are mostly quiet. The neon signs of late-night diners buzzing in the stillness. A group of teenagers had just finished their meal at the AAA diner on Main Street. The check? $115. But instead of paying, they walked out and climbed into an Uber. Moments later, flashing lights. The car was pulled over near Main and Orchard Streets. Inside was 17-year-old Jackie Perry, a junior at Weaver High School. He wasn't loud or reckless. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of kid who held his dreams close. He loved football and basketball. He was trying to turn things around. His grades were finally improving. He had started seeing a future for himself. A basketball tournament in Florida was coming up, and he was looking forward to it. That future ended before the sun came up. The officers who pulled over the Uber didn't seem hostile. Body cam footage later showed them giving the teens a chance. Pay the bill and there'd be no charges. Jackie was calm, even respectful. He told them he'd already paid $50 of it. He cooperated, but something shifted. Officers noticed he kept reaching for his pockets. One told him to keep his hands behind his back, routine safety protocol. Then came the request for a quick pat down. Jackie grew anxious. He pulled out his phone, tried to call his mother. He even handed it to one of the officers. It's unclear if she ever picked up. Before they could search him, Jackie bolted. The footage shows him sprinting down Orchard Street, turning onto Main, rushing past a darkened medical supply store. Then, one shot, a sharp crack that echoed into the night. "Shots fired," an officer shouted. But the shot hadn't come from police. Moments later, they found Jackie lying on the sidewalk, screaming. He had been shot by his own weapon. A stolen handgun tucked into his waistband had gone off while he ran. The bullet tore through his right thigh, hitting an artery and a vein. He was bleeding fast. Paramedics raced to the scene. He was rushed to St. Francis Hospital, but the damage was too severe. Despite surgery, Jackie Perry didn't make it. The office of the chief medical examiner ruled it an accident. The shot that killed him had come from his own gun. No one knows how he got it. It had been reported stolen from South Windsor. The news shattered his community. Teachers, friends, family, all spoke of a boy who was more than the worst decision he ever made. A kid who had made mistakes, yes, but who had been trying, really trying, to build something better for himself. He'd started playing football at age 9. His grandfather, Trevor Big Tiggett, had coached him. Even after foot injuries, Jackie stayed committed, playing basketball, showing up, pushing through. He lived with his mother, Jabrell Perry, and was one of 8 siblings. That same year, their home on Martin Street had burned down. They lost everything. But Jackie, he stayed hopeful. On Mother's Day, he gave his mom a pink teddy bear with a recorded message, "I love you." His grandmother, Lori Perry, said he had stumbled during sophomore year, but the alternative education program had changed him. His focus returned. He wanted more, wanted better. She still doesn't understand why he had a gun, and she's adamant Jackie didn't skip out on that bill. The footage shows him saying, clearly, he paid part of it. More than 200 people gathered for a memorial near the charred remains of their old home. They released balloons, told stories, and cried. At his funeral in Bloomfield, the room was filled with quiet grief, and a live stream captured the heartbreak of those who couldn't be there in person. His coach, Dean Jones, was devastated. Jackie was supposed to be in Florida with the team, showing his skills, chasing a future. Now the coach was left trying to comfort a family that had already lost so much. The other teens were charged for not paying the bill. Police confirmed the gun was stolen, but haven't said how Jackie came to possess it. He was just 17. He made a bad decision. He ran. He carried something he shouldn't have, but he didn't get a second chance. And that's what cuts deepest.